Howdy gamers, so let's talk about the runes for Illaoi top lane. She's a pretty unique champion, but the only runes that are really effective on her are runes that offer her better scaling than also healing. If you're looking to get healing, your only options in runes really is Fleet of Footwork, Conqueror, and then Grasp. You could try to do something with Summoner Spellbook, but the way Illaoi functions is not like the other tanks that can kind of get away with Summoner Spellbook. It's either like control mages that don't have to be taking damage, or tank champions that just gain extra functionality through the Summoner spells as they lose functionality in their abilities as the game goes on. But with Illaoi, she's mostly just looking for scaling in attack damage, and then and then again through healing through the runes. So then you have the option of Grasp, Fleet of Footwork, and Conquer. With Fleet of Footwork, healing and then getting a little bit of movement speed after your auto attack is okay, but the healing is based on like you build it up through auto attacking a lot, and then you also build it up through moving. And Illaoi does auto attack every now and then, but then the extra movement speed doesn't help so much, as it's really just about pulling the enemy's soul and then dumping an entire combo on that. So being able to move around a bit kind of just disrupts the flow of just literally casting every ability on top of itself. With Grasp, Grasp is okay, but you lose out on a lot of AD from Conquer, and then Conquer kind of has better synergy. With Grasp, you're going to get one proc of it through like a trade, and then maybe two if you end up pulling their soul. But then during an all-in, all-ins with Illaoi happen really quickly. So it's not like other tanks where, again, they just have a lot of time to play with. Illaoi things happens, like I said, very quickly. And Grasp is only every 4 seconds in combat. With Conquer, you can be healing in every single instance of your damage once it's fully stacked up, which is very quick for Illaoi. So the only keystone I'd recommend for Illaoi is Conquer. With Conquer, your basic attacks and spells that deal damage to an enemy champion grant you 2 stacks of Conquer for 6 seconds. This also gives you bonus Adaptive Force, which is going to be AD, and then stacks up to 10 times. Once it's fully stacked, you heal for 15% of the damage you deal, and that's the pretty important part, where with Illaoi, it's really about whenever an enemy dives onto you or onto your team, then it's about being able to survive that and then turn the fight completely on them, because initially in a fight, Illaoi spending her health to cast her abilities, and then after taking so much damage, forecasting her abilities, then she heals it back whenever the tentacles slam onto the enemy. So it has really, really good synergy with her kit, so long that you play it properly, which is just by playing it defensively. For the second rune, it's going to be Triumph. Triumph's going to restore 12% of your missing health and then grant you an additional 20 gold for kills and assists. Again, where you're spending your HP as your resource to get things started in a fight, it's mostly about staying alive in a fight. So you kill one target, then if it's in a 1v1 top lane, it will usually help you just survive by like that much. Especially if they have a damage over time ability, helps you in 2v2s obviously, and then come team fights, its effects to really start becoming like more and more apparent, where you just have more HP to play with every single time you kill someone. And again, where things happen so quickly, it's just like the tentacle slam, one person's dies, you get that health regen, you're surviving with like 20% HP, bam, the tentacle slam again. It just has pretty good synergy. And it gives you just the more health to play with, and that's really what Illaoi's looking for. The extra mana from Presence of Mind doesn't give you any more rotations of your abilities that you wouldn't otherwise have. And then overheal, excess healing, the shield just isn't so useful, especially where it has to be built up. For the secondary runes, you could run attack speed. If the matchup that you're playing into if you wouldn't need the tenacity, then sure, you could run the attack speed. Bloodline also isn't so bad, where the W counts as an auto attack, and you can get the good value out of. You just simply would heal more with having Bloodline versus not. So depending on the matchup, probably consider running all 3 of these in bruiser matchups. Champions like Akali, Irelia, where you don't really need the tenacity, I think you get more value out of the attack speed. Into tank matchups, champions like Maokai, Malphite, etc. Or if the enemy team comp has a lot of CC, champions like Nautilus or Zac in the jungle and support role, consider running Tenacity because getting interrupted in team fights whenever you're trying to cast your abilities is the worst. It's about the only way Illaoi dies. And then if you're playing into what do you even call them? Like mage bruisers, I guess. Champions like Rumble, Mordekaiser, Ornn. Then you probably get more value out of Bloodline, as the extra lifesteal would be giving you better values against them because you're just fighting them for longer. So that's with the fourth rune, Last Stand's your best bet. You're basically choosing like how you get your damage amplification. With Coup de Grace, you deal 8% more damage to champions who have less than 40% health. So that would be your greedier option. With Last Stand, you deal 5 to 11% increased damage to champions while you're below 60% health, and then the maximum damage is gained when you're at 30% health. So that gets pretty obvious value where, again, you're spending your health early and then trying to turn that onto the enemy. And then in the process of doing so, you're just simply dealing more damage. So you amplify your all in, especially in even situations with Last Stand. Versus Coup de Grace, you would potentially kill someone that you otherwise wouldn't if you were already winning. So if you're 2-0, maybe you like one shot the guy off just, I don't know, landing 2 Qs and pulling their soul or something. I don't know. It's just a win more is never really necessary in League. For the secondary runes, you have okay options in Sudden Impact, Ravenous Hunter. That you'd probably want to run this in depending on the matchup. If you were into probably again just like the tank matchups where you have more time to play with, because Sudden Impact's cooldown is 4 seconds, and then Ravenous Hunter is going to heal you for percentage of damage dealt by your abilities. But then you also have to stack up Ravenous Hunter, which stacking up a Bounty Hunter rune for Illaoi can be pretty hard where you're mainly just playing around the side lane. For the Sorcery Tree, nothing's too crazy. I suppose if you were trying to empower your TPs or something, you could run Nimbus Cloak, but even if you try to supplement that, then it's still not that good. Where you're really going to get a lot of value is through the Resolve Tree, where Revitalize is going to be giving you a ton of value. Again, you're spending your HP a lot and then trying to turn the fight on the enemy. With Revitalize, heals and shields you cast or receive are 5% stronger and increased by an additional 10% on targets below 40% health. So pretty similar to Last Stand, where you're below so much health, you just heal more. And if you didn't want to run that and wanted the flat HP outright, Overgrowth would be your better option. And then you have you have good choices in all 3 runes in the second round in Resolve. Conditioning, after 10 minutes, you gain Armored Magic Resist. You would want to run this in non-matchups. Really easy matchups in top lane, so against champions like Kale, maybe champions like Rumble where they're pushing you in early. And then you just simply are tankier past 10 minutes and onwards. And then where you get the split resistances as well, it also helps you into champions with mixed damage in the top lane. With Second Wind, you want to be running this into like the caster, like the Mage Bruiser matchups top lane. So champions like Mordekaiser or Ornn, where even though they're short range, they do have poke abilities. And with Second Wind, after you take damage from an enemy champion, you heal for 4% of your missing health over 10 seconds. And since this has basically no cooldown, it's like every single time they cast their poke ability, you can be trading with your Q, and then Second Wind's also going to help you heal that. You can get so much value out of this rune in those matchups. With Bone Plating, you want to be running this into the harder melee matchups. So especially melee matchups that just have like impossibly better level 1s against Illaoi. Champions like Irelia, Yasuo, usually just champions that are on hit and want to jump on you, Camille, etc. So all 3 of those are good, and then you want to mix them up like depending on your matchup. But if you're looking for a default, Bone Plating is completely fine. And then for the adaptive runes, it's going to be attack damage, and then depending on your matchup, you want to switch the resistances. So obviously, if you're into Irelia, Yasuo, etc., you want the armor. If you're into Mordekaiser, Rumble, etc., you want the magic resist. So that's really it for the runes for Illaoi. Like I said, I don't see anything really outweighing these runes, maybe there'd be a weird variation with something like Dark Harvest, because a page like this wouldn't be so bad. It would have pretty good synergy with how our kit works, where you want to finish off targets that are low, and then you really want to turn fights. But I think it would be a lot harder to build up. And then for your secondary rune options, I suppose you would still want Last Stand, and then Triumph, and then kind of hope for the best. I've never seen an Illaoi run this, but I don't think it'd be that bad, as you'd still get healing from Ravenous Hunter. You'd still have your damage from Last Stand. You would lose out on the healing from Conquer, but I just don't know if Illaoi needs that or not, depending on like matchups or like even 5v5 situations, because I haven't played the champion a lot, and I also just don't know. I just don't know. I haven't seen an Illaoi, man, but it might be okay. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Illaoi runes. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you know a lot about Illaoi and would like to chime in, leave that in the comments as well. I'm here to learn too. So if this video helped you, leaving a like on the video helps me. And if you're interested in watching me play League of Legends or talk about it some more, check out my Twitch. It's twitch.tv/SawyerNelson. It's in the description. Bye bye, man. Illaoi, she's secretly a support too. Now listen, if you're gonna play her support, you could run Conquer, you could run Guardian, you can also run Summoner Spellbook or Glacial on support, or even Omnistone. Honestly, Omnistone's probably your best bet. So yeah, but Illaoi support's a secret. Just don't tell anyone, okay? Bye bye. See ya.